Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monday Meditation, The Joy of Sitting. So let's just take a moment to look at why is it the joy of sitting? So in the various yogic practices that pertain to meditation and mindfulness practice, they're called jhanas, which also has to do with joy. And there's different levels of joy. You may have thought, well, I'm happy. What's better than that? And there are different levels of happiness, believe it or not. And so, of course, the ancient mystics and their discoveries and meditations and all documented these. And so, meditation practice opens the door to multiple layers of joy that are more and more subtle. And why would subtle be better? Because it goes more deeply into your being. And so subtlety, while you may think, well, don't I want it to be like a massive thing? It is massive, but in this very subtle way, because it's so much more all encompassing. So, that being said, tonight, this is the plan that I have for us. We're going to start tonight with me reading a poem from Jalaluddin Mawlana Rumi, one of the great Sufi teachers of all time. And I love it. It starts out, come, come, whoever you are. So, and I'll read that. That'll be our opening piece. Following that, what we're going to do is probably a little bit more talking. And then following that will be our spaciousness meditation. And this is the meditation where we observe the space that our thoughts and emotions arise within. And I'll say a little bit more about that before we go into the meditation. What's going to happen is we're going to take a look at the art of returning, much like this poem from Rumi about returning and how that pertains to mindfulness practice. Afterward, we're going to do some more conversation. Actually, we'll do our after spaciousness meditation, the art of returning. And then what we're going to do as part of the art of returning is to what we pay attention to, where our focus goes. And so little by little, where our focus goes is we become more and more observant of our body, what's happening in your body. And so part of returning, part of being present, is experiencing what's happening in your body with the various impacts of your day. And so, again, much like with meditation, our attention starts to expand into deeper and deeper aspects of our life. And our spiritual practice becomes more and more all inclusive in our life, that we're not keeping any part of our life outside of our sense of centering and presence in. And so then we're going to do our body centered mindfulness practice. And you know how we do it here. We piggyback on the body centered mindfulness practice, the heart centering meditation. And everyone, you all love that. I know I love that too. And that comes from one of the great Sufi lineages. This, of course, is an adaptation of that, but it's based on that original practice. And then following that, we're going to take a little bit of a dive into looking at unhinging stuckness and what happens. How do we do that? And sometimes it's one molecule at a time, one atom at a time, baby steps, partial baby steps. But little by little, we start to create movement, and we'll talk more about that. And following that, what we're going to do is we'll do our processing of unpleasant emotions meditation. And this is an incredible practice. It comes to us by way of Tibetan Buddhism, originated by a Nepalese monk, and actually not really originated, but Atisha was his name. Atisha Dipankara Srinana was his name, probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but I think you can oblige me that. We call him Atisha, though. So Atisha, about 1,000 years ago, collected all of these teachings into one body of work, a specific mindfulness practice called Lojong, which means it has to do with the cultivation of loving kindness. And so I call it the daily practice of loving kindness. And of course, the daily practice has to include this phrase gratitude is the attitude. And what are you grateful for today? What are you grateful for right now? And I'm grateful to see those of you that show up. And before we go too much more deeply, I'm waving back to Cam Bam 916. Always great to see you here. Wonderful to see you. So let's go ahead and begin. This poem that I'm about to read comes from one of the great mystics of all time, Jalaluddin Mawlana Rumi. We just call him Rumi for short. And he's the one that founded the whirling dervish order of Sufism. And you know, every year there's something called the Urs that takes place all around the world where Sufi dancers gather and they do the turn. Really beautiful to see. So here's this particular poem. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come yet again. Come, come. That's from Rumi. And so when we think about the spiritual journey and we think about consciousness and the cultivation of loving kindness, it isn't like turning a light switch on. We keep coming back to keep the light lit, keep coming back. And eventually the light just stays on. For now, though, let's do a little bit of practice. This opening meditation is actually called Shikantaza. That's the ancient name. And that comes by way of one of the branches of Zen Buddhism. Zen Buddhism is part of the Mahayana branch of Buddhism. So the Mahayana branch has one goal, which is to make the teachings of freedom from suffering available to everyone, no matter if they're a monk or not a monk, whether it's an ordinary person like you and me, that these teachings, these practices are available. And even if they set you free for a moment, isn't that better than not? And so in my life, there's this part of coming back and coming back. And it gets easier and easier over time. And even if you take a little break, you just come back. It's just the next day. Beating yourself up and making yourself wrong for whatever it may be, while it may be helpful initially to bring you back to the path, once you're back, then beating yourself up is just another distraction. And if that's something that serves you, beating yourself up, then perhaps, but I ask you to lighten the beating down to just a gentle touch, little by little, just a very subtle, kind reminder. Simply come back. And so, this meditation that we're about to do now, this Shikantaza, I call it the spaciousness meditation. It's not exactly like spacing out, but this word spaciousness here has to do with observing the space that your thoughts and emotions arise within. So, an example of that is you have a thought, maybe it's about someone, and you notice the thought. Notice the place within your mind that you experience the thought. And then notice what's just around that thought. What's that space? And then you start to open the space. What's around this space? And it's almost like a doorway into, it may initially seem like a room, it may seem like a room without limit. And as you open to the space, it's not to stop thinking, it's to observe this space. And so thoughts come in and it reminds you, okay, in this space. and a thought comes in and it reminds you, and you're in this space. And little by little, you soften more and more into this space, and there's an experience there that's quite lovely. So let's go ahead and do that. And with meditation practice, it's always good just to take a moment to readjust the position of your body on the surface that your body's resting, and very gently allowing your eyelids to drift downward until they do close. And taking a slow and gentle deep breath in and gently releasing this breath and allowing your breath to find its own natural rhythm once again, free of control. And beginning to bring the very center of the focus of your attention to your experience of breathing. Notice if your breath is shallow, and just gently allow your breath to flow more deeply into your being, observing the way that your shoulders, chest, and belly wall expand on your inhalations and release on your exhalations. Observing the way that your body movement accommodates your breath and breathing, the way that your shoulders, chest, and belly wall expand on your inhalations and release on your exhalations. Also, allowing your awareness to experience the warmth and the coolness of your breath. And you might notice that on your inhalations, the air seems cooler as it enters your body, as it enters through your nose or your mouth. There's a coolness to it. And on your exhale, it may seem warmer, in combination of noticing the way that your body movement accommodates your breath and breathing as your shoulders, chest, and belly wall expand on your inhalations and release exhalations, and the warmth and coolness of your breath. You also might notice the way on your inhalations that the air seems drier as it enters through your nose or mouth, and it may seem moister as it departs your body through your nose or mouth. Allowing your awareness to include the way that your shoulders, chest, and belly wall expand on your inhalations, release on your exhalations, and at the same time noticing the moist and dryness of your breath, the warmth and coolness of your breath, and also beginning to notice the beating of your heart and your pulse that travels throughout your entire being. Coming down into your body by being aware of the way that your body movement accommodates your breath and breathing, the warmth and coolness of your breath, the moist and dryness of your breath, the beating of your heart and your pulse that travels throughout your whole being. And also beginning to notice the space that your thoughts and emotions arise within. Notice the thought, whatever it is. Maybe it's your name. Maybe it's something that happened today. Maybe it's a fantasy. Maybe it's feeling comfortable on the surface that your body's resting. Maybe it's the sound of my voice. Whatever it is for you, notice the thought and notice the space around the thought. And notice the spaciousness that the thought arises within. And beginning to soften into this spaciousness and beginning to notice this gentle, calm feeling within this space that your thoughts and emotions arise within. You're calm, this feeling of calm that's always right here in this space. Continuing to be aware of the way that your body movement accommodates your breath and breathing, the beating of your heart and your pulse, the space that your thoughts and emotions arise within, and let them come. Let your thoughts and emotions come without pushing fantasy. Just notice what's here. If fantasies arise, notice the fantasy and noticing the space around it, the space that your thoughts, emotions, and fantasies arise within, and softening into this space and the calm that you feel in this space. Softening that much more deeply into your calm and allowing this feeling of calm to flow throughout your entire being. And notice this sense of ease that comes into you with this calm, with your calm. The ease it creates in being aware of thought and emotions, the space that they arise within, and this calm that's always here in this space. Softening that much more deeply into this calm, while still being aware of the way that your body movement accommodates your breath and breathing, the beating of your heart and your pulse, the space that your thoughts and emotions arise within, and this calm that's always right here. And allowing your calm to saturate your being as you soften into it. And taking just another moment to unhook and float and drift within this incredible calm that's right here with you. And taking another slow and gentle deep breath in and gently releasing this breath and allowing your breath to find its own natural rhythm once again, free of control. Slowly beginning to move your fingers and your toes, gently stretching your hands and your feet, slowly moving your wrists and your ankles, gently shrugging your shoulders and stretching your back and your neck and your arms and your legs. And when you're ready, slowly let your eyes come back open And notice if the room and space around you seems a little different than before, and if you feel a little different than you did. If there is a difference and you're enjoying this difference, please soften into it and recognize that this is a gift that you've given to yourself. Just taking a moment to wave back to Healing to Whole. Thank you for being here. And Linny and Nell, Lillian Nell, thank you for being here. Wonderful to see you here tonight with us. And so, if any of you have questions about meditation or mindfulness practice, or want to know more about what we're doing and all of that kind of stuff, please write a comment so I can respond. And also, if you want to chat at another time about mindfulness training, the daily practice of loving kindness, meditation practice, you can go to my website, artofconnectionnow.com. That's Art of Connection Now is one word.com. And we can set up a time to chat. So let's see. So part of practice, mindfulness practice, is the art of returning to being present. So that involves, of course, forgetting, getting distracted, and then remembering to come back. This remembrance is part of very important in mindfulness training. Making yourself making yourself wrong for getting distracted really doesn't. It's only another distraction, isn't it? And we still have to find our way back to this moment somewhere in the process of beating ourselves up. Although sometimes we get carried away with that, and we still need to come back to being present. So one of the things as we go forward tonight that I just want to say about myself is I'm getting over a little bit of something. It may be hay fever, although what happened earlier um, last week is one of the members of my family passed on. And so my whole family is grieving his loss. He was relatively young. He was 52 years old. So if it seems like I'm a little bit depressed or sad about something, you know why. And I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for me. I'm just feeling my feelings, and I want to be honest so you understand. And I'm committed to you in this class, and that's why I'm here, regardless of all of that. If it was so bad that I couldn't be here, I would have a post of some kind. It isn't that bad that I can't be here. I'm here not because someone's forcing me to be here, other than my own inspiration to be here as I am, just like this. And so, and I ask the same thing of you. I'm grateful that you're here, just like this. So if it seems like I'm clearing my throat a lot, you'll understand I'm going through something. I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't really feel sick. I just feel a little broken hearted. So you understand what that's like. And some of you I know about this. Maybe you all do. Haven't we all had our heart broken at least once? So these things happen, and we go through them. And one of the things that makes it easier to go through them is we keep bringing our focus back to what's happening now. The physical sensations, the thoughts, your feelings, all of these parts are part of you, part of your life experience. And you keep coming back to the present. So when there's things that are challenging because we have certain avoidant practices, that we don't want to take out the trash, or we don't want to work on something we're writing, or whatever it may be. It may be something you love doing, but just in that moment, you don't have a lot of space for it. So let's say if I'm thing I do is I just open up my computer, maybe start my word processor, or whether I'm using Google Docs or Microsoft Word, whatever it is for you. And maybe I just open that page and maybe put my name on it. And if there's a title that I'm thinking to use, maybe I put the title on it and put the date on it, whatever that is. And maybe that's all I do. That's the beginning. So we start the project by beginning, one step at a time. And even if we don't want to, maybe we need to. Maybe it's good for us to push ourselves a little without running our limits too terribly. This is not to harm you. It's how do we deal with the way that the obstacles we create that keep us from the future that we want to create, whatever that is. If we're going to do something, we have to start somewhere. And so if we start with a small thing, then we've broken the surface tension. So an example of the surface tension part. So um, there are certain types of bugs you might see at a lake, and they have long legs. And it seems like they're walking on the water. And they're walking on the surface of the water. So the mistake there is to think that they're floating. Now, if they floated, then if you took them and put them under the water, they would come back to the surface, right? Like you take a ball that's inflated, you put it under the surface, what happens? It bounces up. It's buoyant. It floats. The difference here with the water walking bugs is that there's something called surface tension. Water and all fluids have a surface tension. And so the weight of the water walking bug is less than the weight that it would take to break the surface tension. So the metaphor here is that when we break the surface tension with projects that we need to do, maybe it's taking out the trash. So if we can, we maybe put the trash over by the door as a reminder. And then if we're going to go out to our car anyway, maybe we take the trash out. We start to set ourselves up to win. How do you set yourself up to win rather than creating obstacles that prevent you from winning? And then what happens internally? What do you think about yourself if you're not able to achieve your goals? And so if you want to know more about this piece, get in touch with me. I know a lot about this, and I would love to help you through it. So now, all of that being said, let's take a look at body centering practice. So in the process of creating these obstacles, what's happening in our body? Is there a tightness in our chest? How is our gut doing? Do our shoulders feel, how do our shoulders feel? Are they up here around our neck? Are they down here? What's going on? Is your breathing shallow, like up this far, or are you breathing down to your gut? And so even taking a gentle deep breath in helps to break that cycle. Now, in a moment, what we're going to do is the body centered mindfulness practice that will lead us into the heart centering meditation. And this body centered mindfulness practice is ancient. It goes back to the time of the Buddha, probably before that, who knows? I wasn't there. I've only heard stories. So I'm sharing the stories with you. And I love a good story. So that's this one. So, once again, because we're going to do this body centered mindfulness practice along with the heart centering meditation, once again, repositioning your body on the surface that your body's resting, and very gently allowing your eyelids to drift downward until they do close. And taking a slow and gentle deep breath in, and gently releasing this breath and allowing your breath to find its own natural rhythm once again, free of control. Beginning to scan to feel on the inside of your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, looking for the locations and content where your stress, tension, physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, and discomforts reside, whether they're caused by rapid growth, pushing to achieve your goals, or perhaps they're caused by anxieties, worries, concerns, grief and loss, whatever it may be for you, no matter how large or how small. Noticing the locations and content within your body. And sometimes we grab our thoughts, we grab our emotions, allowing your love to work for you and through you by giving these locations and content a very warm, tender, nurturing, caring, loving, inclusive, and connecting embrace. Embracing these locations and content and tightening your embrace just a little bit more by giving them an open hearted, warm hearted, full hearted, warm, tender, nurturing, caring, loving, inclusive, and connecting embrace. Connecting to your places, location, and content. And softening and releasing, gently bringing the very center of the focus of your attention to this feeling of release, and allowing this feeling of release to flow throughout your entire being, and allowing all of your senses to register this experience of release, and softening into this experience of release. Scanning once again from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, looking for the locations and content where your stress, tension, pain, and discomforts reside, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, and or spiritual, or any combinations thereof, no matter how large or how small. Even the subtlest of the subtle, the gentlest of the gentle. Notice the locations and content where your stress and all of this reside. And allowing your love to work for you and through you by giving these locations and content the gentlest of embrace that's possible for you, giving them a warm, tender, nurturing, caring, loving, inclusive, and connecting embrace. And softening your embrace and releasing. Gently bringing the very center of the focus of your attention to this feeling of release. And allowing this feeling of release to flow through your entire being. And allowing all of your senses to register this experience of release. And scanning once again from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, looking for the locations and content where your stress, tension, pain, and discomforts reside, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, or any combinations thereof, no matter how large or how small. Even the weensy beensy, the tiniest of the tiny, notice there where they reside within your being. And this time, the gentlest touch that's possible for you. Whisper soft, barely touching the fringes of these locations and content with a warm, tender, nurturing, caring, loving, inclusive, and connecting contact. And softening and releasing, gently bringing the very center of the focus of your attention to this feeling of release. And allowing this feeling of release to flow throughout your entire being. And allowing all of your senses to register this experience of release. And softening into this experience of release. And allowing this experience of release to penetrate, to flow through, throughout your whole being, allowing your being to be saturated by this experience of release. And very gently bringing the very center of the focus of your attention to the dull ache in your heart, the doorway in. And you know this dull ache in your heart. You may have experienced it many times from various losses in your life, or when you fell in love, or when your heart broke, whatever it was for you. You know this dull ache in your heart. And leaning backward into this dull ache, leaning backward into the doorway into your heart, more and more and more until you somewhat plop inside your own heart. And allowing all of your senses to register the experience of being on the inside of your heart. It may seem more quiet on the inside of your heart. It might hurt less to be on the inside of your heart. Notice what's here on the inside of your heart. It may feel more calm. It may feel more loving. Whatever's your truth, just be honest with yourself. And noticing the place within your heart that your love always arises from. Whether your love is for a person, a place, a thing, a two-legged, a four-legged, a no-legged, whether your love is for someone on this plane of existence or any other, your love always arises from this place. And allowing your love to flow through you and around you. And perhaps noticing some of the essences of love that live within your love, like caring and kindness, and this amazing vibration of connection. And allowing your vibration of connection to flow through you and around you. And you know this vibration of connection for the times that you want to connect with someone, with something, with anything, when it's possible and when it's not. And as you allow your vibration of connection to flow through you and around you, allowing all of your senses to register this pure connection that lives within you. And softening into your pure connection and allowing your pure connection to saturate your being. And taking another moment to unhook and float and drift within your incredible pure connection that lives within you. And taking another slow and gentle deep breath in and gently releasing this breath and allowing your breath to find its own natural rhythm once again, free of control. Slowly beginning to move your fingers and your toes, gently stretching your hands and your feet, slowly moving your wrists and your ankles, gently shrugging your shoulders and stretching your back and your neck and your arms and legs. And when you're ready, slowly let your eyes come back open and notice if the room seems a little different than before, and if you feel a little different than you did. If there is a difference and you're enjoying the difference or curious about it, please soften into it and recognize that this is a gift that you've given to yourself. Now let's take a look at stuckness, especially mental or emotional stuckness. And that place that our mind kind of spasm, our heart kind of spasms. Something shouldn't be this way, or why is it this way? And it's a kind of a push away because we don't want to feel what we do feel. And we may feel stuck because there's this sense of it shouldn't be this way. But the problem is, it is this way. And so, as we tell ourselves the truth about whatever is here, no matter how much we want it to be here or don't want it to be here, there is a way to process through our unpleasant emotions, that gives us power. It gives us strength. It gives us courage to carry on, to move forward, that life is bigger than this particular upset, whatever it may be, whatever the obstacle may be, whatever your hurt feelings may be. Because when we're feeling these unpleasantries, these unpleasant emotions, what happens? We're breathing them in and we're breathing them out, and we feel stuck. So, this meditation goes way back to these teachings that this Buddhist monk Atisha assembled all those years ago, about 1,000 years ago. And so, this is to help us, to process through these unpleasant emotions so that we can be free. We can be happier. We can find joy within our situation. Because when we're stuck, it doesn't help anything. And so if we get even a molecule of movement, that's better than no movement. So we do use the breathing, the breath, and in this in this meditation, what we do is we pick the worst one. Pick the worst emotion of your day, whatever it is for you. Pick the worst one. Let's start there. And the reason for that is this. If you pick the worst one, the worst of your unpleasant emotions of the day, then you know you're not making it up. And if you feel better, you know you didn't make it up. And so then you know that I'm not making it up, that I'm offering you something that's of value. So let's go ahead and do this. The ancient name for it is Tonglen, which means giving and receiving. And that's where our feelings ride the breath. We experience these emotions as we breathe in and out. I call the meditation, by a Western way of looking at it, I call it the processing of unpleasant emotions meditation. Might as well tell the truth about it. That's what this is. So once again, please reposition your body on the surface that your body's resting, and very gently allowing your eyelids to drift downward until they do close. On the next in-breath, breathing in your most unpleasant emotion of the day or past few days, whatever is the most unpleasant for you. On the in-breath, breathing your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Breathing in your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Breathing in your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for yourself and your human experience. Continuing to breathe, leaving your eyelids closed, and considering if we had some magical device that was capable of measuring all of the qualities and distinctions of human emotion, of everyone on this plane of existence in this moment. Even though their circumstances might be very different than yours, how many of them would register so close to your measurement as to be indistinguishable? One other person, 10 other people, 100 people, maybe hundreds of people, perhaps thousands or even millions of people, just like you and just like me. And on the next in breath, breathing in your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Breathing in your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Breathing in your most unpleasant emotion into every pore and cell of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Breathing out love, kindness, compassion, caring, and connection through every cell and pore of your being as a gift of generosity and spaciousness for all and this human experience. Continuing to breathe, leaving your eyelids closed, and considering, evaluating if you feel any more compassion toward yourself and your human experience. And do you feel any more compassion for others who all this human experience? And slowly and gently taking another deep breath in, gently releasing this breath and allowing your breath to find its own natural rhythm once again, free of control. Slowly beginning to move your fingers and your toes, gently stretching your hands and your feet, slowly moving your wrists and your ankles, gently shrugging your shoulders and stretching your back and your neck and your arms and your legs. And when you're ready, slowly let your eyes come back open and notice if the room and space around you seems a little different than before. And if you feel a little different than you did, if there is a difference and you know and you like this difference or curious about it, please soften into it and recognize that this is a gift that you've given to yourself. Waving back to Antonio underscore Verali. Thank you for being here. Waving back to underscore poet dot in dot me underscore. Thank you for being here. And waving back to Rocky 4440. Thank you for being here tonight. Wonderful to see you here. All of you, thank you for being here. So let's take a look at what we did tonight. We started by a reading of a poem by Jalaluddin Mawlana Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come yet again. Following that, we did our spaciousness meditation and observed the space around that our thoughts and emotions arise within, and felt this sense of calm within that. Following that, we talked about the art of returning as a mindfulness practice and how beneficial that is, and the way to break the surface tension in your life so that you can achieve your goals and milestones. Following that, we did our body-centered mindfulness practice, followed by piggybacked on that was the heart-centered meditation, and experienced this incredible sense of connection, pure connection within. Afterward, we talked about processing emotions and what happens when we're stuck and how to move through that. And following that, we use this ancient technique. I call it the processing of unpleasant emotions meditation. That's what we just did. And notice how you feel afterward. And now we're about to close our evening. Excuse me, I've had a lot of throat stuff tonight. We're about to finish our evening with an adaptation of the Beauty Way prayer from the Native American Church. And so what I just did for the Zoom space where it's being recorded is I brought in a virtual background of the Milky Way. So in terms of the Beauty Way prayer, it's like, what beauty are we talking about? So this is the beauty of nature that gives us this incredible experience of a meaningful sense of connection. The Milky Way, if we take a look at that, why I would even bother with the Milky Way, on one part, it's because it's so beautiful. And it's so large that it transcends our understanding, or at least my understanding. It's so huge. And also its longevity is so much longer than one human birth that it transcends our understanding. And yet, even with all of that transcendent stuff, it doesn't diminish you or me. Instead, it's inclusive. We're a part of that beauty. We were born into this beauty. We're a part of it. And so when I use the word beauty in this prayer, it's this type of beauty that I'm referring to. You pick what your reference point is for this beauty, and there's lots of room, of course, to choose the Milky Way. Now, in the Native American Church, the directions are considered sacred because for example, if you know where the sun rises and where it sets, that's one source of direction, but that also tells you, so that's east and west, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, but that also tells you where north and south is. So when you know the directions, you know where you stand. Well, internally in our life, and if you know what your directions are, you know where you stand. So let's take a look at it. Let's do this prayer. And so with the Milky Way, for example, as we look at these different directions, see if you can extend your sense of sensitivity in that direction to experience the presence of the Milky Way. Beauty that is in front of us, and beauty that is behind us, and beauty that is to the left of us, and beauty that is to the right of us, and beauty that is underneath us, and beauty that is above us, and beauty that is all around us. And it is essential to remember the beauty that is within us. Dear friends, there's a word spoken in the language that the Navajo people speak. This word is pronounced Ojunahaslein. Ojunahaslein, Ojunahaslein, Ojunahaslein. Walk in beauty. And please remember that you bring the beauty with you wherever you go. Walk in beauty. Namaste. Gasho. Many blessings. Walk in beauty. And please always remember that you bring beauty with you. Walk in beauty.